Imagine a city of absolutely massive tombs, carved right into sandstone cliffs, hidden away in the Arabian desert for centuries. Well, that's Hegra. It's an ancient wonder that's stepping back into the global spotlight. And as it does, it's leaving behind this fascinating trail of digital clues about what we, the modern visitors, really think about it.
See, for hundreds of years, this place was a critical hub on the great caravan routes. It was a bustling southern capital for the very same civilization that built the world-famous city of Petra. Its history is just incredibly rich, a true crossroads of empires and cultures.
But here's the thing. After being pretty isolated for a long time, Hegra is now opening its doors to the world. And this gives us a really unique chance to ask, as the first international tourists are walking through its wonders, what are their gut reactions? What are those unfiltered first impressions telling us?
So, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at Hegra's big comeback on the world stage. Then, we're going to decode the digital footprints left by its first visitors to figure out what they absolutely love, but also, to hear out their constructive criticism. And finally, we'll see what all this means for Hegra's path forward. Okay, so before we dive into what people are saying today, we've got to understand the incredible journey this ancient city has been on. It's been a long one. People have lived here since the Iron Age, but Hegra really hit its stride under the Nabataeans right around the 1st century BCE. It was later swallowed up by the Roman Empire. Then, after centuries of being relatively quiet, it got UNESCO status in 2008, and, this is the big one, it finally opened its doors to international tourists in 2019, kicking off a brand new chapter in its very long history.
So how do you really know what these new visitors are thinking? I mean, you can't exactly go and ask every single one of them, so researchers turned to a super modern method to understand the experience of this ancient place.
They used something called sentiment analysis. Now, I want you to think of it like a kind of digital archaeology. Instead of digging in the sand with brushes and shovels, they dug into data, specifically 245 TripAdvisor reviews written in English over a 13-year span, to unearth the real opinions and feelings of modern visitors. And the process was super methodical. First, they just grabbed all the reviews. Then, they had to clean up the text, get it ready for analysis. Next, they used this specialized tool called VADER, which is basically designed to understand the emotion in text, to read every review and give it a sentiment score. And finally, they used something called topic modeling to find the recurring themes, the stuff that kept popping up over and over again.
And you know what? The results of this digital dig were pretty fascinating. So what did they find? Well, first off, let's look at the just overwhelming amount of positive feedback.
The first number that just jumps off the page is how positive the feedback was. On a scale where +1 is the best possible feeling, the average score for positive reviews was a massive 0.769. That shows a really, really high level of satisfaction and just genuine excitement.
And when you look at the actual star ratings, the story gets even clearer. A staggering 175 out of 245 reviews gave Hegra a perfect 5-star excellent rating. That's more than 70% of all visitors. Just incredible.
So what exactly were people raving about? Well, the analysis showed that all this positive feedback really circled around two main ideas: the unique, jaw-dropping beauty of the site and its deep, powerful history.
This one quote from a visitor just nails that feeling perfectly. They wrote, "You travel through time and history and imagine how those people lived and what they did. It's that deep sense of connection to the past that really leaves a mark on people."
So, the big takeaway here is that visitors loved Hegra for a whole bunch of reasons. It wasn't just one thing. They were captivated by its unique beauty and powerful history for sure, but they also praised the practical stuff, like well-organized tours, good accessibility, and just the sheer variety of things to see at the site.
Hey, no analysis is complete without looking at the other side of the coin, right? The negative feedback wasn't just complaints. It was actually valuable data that pointed right to areas that could be improved.
When the researchers started digging into the less than glowing reviews, a few clear themes popped up. And interestingly, they weren't really about the site itself, but more about the practical challenges. Things like cost, how remote the site is, and how it stacks up against more famous destinations.
Let's break those down. First, there's the isolation. Visitors mention that, man, Hegra is a long way from anywhere. Second, the price. A lot of people felt the tickets were pretty expensive for what you got. Third, privatization. Some folks were concerned about having to book through a single mandatory tour operator. And finally, the big one, the inevitable comparison to its famous sister city, Petra. And here's a really specific example that makes that price issue crystal clear. One tourist wrote that the cost was very expensive, especially when there was no child price ticket. Now, this kind of feedback is exactly what site managers can actually do something about.
Now let's talk about that comparison to Petra, because it came up a lot. The reviews showed a few consistent points. Some visitors felt Hegra was more expensive, that Petra had more developed facilities, and yeah, a few even described Petra as being much more impressive. This really highlights a key challenge for Hegra, carving out its own unique identity in the minds of tourists.
So, what do you do with all this data? The good and the not so good. What does it all mean for the future? How can Hegra's managers use these digital footprints to build a real roadmap for success? The researchers really emphasize that this feedback isn't just a list of complaints. No way! It's an incredibly valuable roadmap. For a destination that's so new to international tourism, this kind of direct insight is like a gift that could help it tweak and perfect the visitor experience.
And the study offers some really clear, actionable solutions. To tackle the cost concerns, they suggest adding more value, like museums or places to eat, and maybe introducing different prices for students or kids. To deal with the Petra comparisons, they recommend developing unique places to stay and really focusing on building Hegra's own brand identity. It's all about turning that constructive criticism into a better experience for everyone.
You know, when you step back, the story of Hegra isn't just about one amazing ancient site. It's really a preview of the future of tourism. In an age where every single visitor leaves a digital footprint, the real question is, how can we get better at listening to make sure these priceless heritage sites don't just survive, but truly thrive for generations to come?